know Randy is coming back. But what we're doing today is we're looking over the review sheet. Most of y'all have your review sheet. If not, I would have a sheet of paper and kind of writing it down. Because what we're doing today is I'm going to go through this here, and if you have any questions, we're going to go over it. Now, hopefully most of y'all have worked on this a little bit. Yes? The numbers, because most of these come out to be ugly, ugly decimals. Yes? Yeah. Because it came out to these massively long decimals. It's not going to do that on the test. The test is not going to have these long decimals. There's a few of them that you can write as a fraction or a decimal, but they're not going to be like these here, okay? So most of them will show up as whole numbers. There's a handful that will be fractions, but most of the numbers come out as whole numbers. So, are there any questions on 1 or 2, or one of those that y'all want to look at? So, I mean, if we look at number 1, what are we doing? We're plugging in -9 for x. We plug in -9 for x, and we simplify. Now, we can't plug absolute values in a calculator. The yellow calculator won't do absolute values. But I could do 7 times -9 minus 2 in the calculator, yes? So 7 times -9 is -63, minus 2 is -65. Would you all agree with that? The absolute value of -65 is? And 65 plus 3 is 68. And that's all we have to do for that one there. We're plugging in the value. So any questions on number 1? Any questions on number 2 here? We go with problem 2? Or do we want to see that one? No? Any questions on this one here? How do we do this one? Okay. Questions on 3 or 4? Either one of those that y'all want to see worked.
The only thing I was wondering if that was a question mark or
It's a semicolon. I put that, so that will show up. So some of these questions will show up on the test. I put that semicolon to separate what's the expression and what's the number we're plugging in. Yeah, so this would just be the square root of 81 divided by 3 plus 7. And we should get 10. Yes? I don't have an answer key yet, do you? No? Okay. I will get the answer key to y'all before we leave today. I'll run a copy of that off, okay, so that you'll have the answer key and you'll have all the answers. So questions on number 4. So we good with just plugging it in 1 through 6, just plugging the values in and simplifying? So we good with these here? Awesome. Now 7 through 12 was a value, it's the same thing, but now we have more than just 1. Yes, we have 3. So are there any of these that we want to look at? Plugging value, or are we good with plugging values in? Yes? Well, this here is still more plugging values in. 16 through 19. 16 through 19. Questions on simplifying these here? You good, Angel? Okay. So these here, we can do what? We can just type these straight into the calculator, yes? And we get our answer. Now, if it puts it in radical form, you can put it in radical form. As in, you get something with a cubed root as the answer on the calculator, you can put that. You can put a decimal, you can put a fraction. You can write your answer however you want, as long as it's the correct answer. So if it turned out that one of these was 1/2 or 0.5, I will take either one. I will take whatever the answer is in any form that you give it. Okay? So if we're good with those there, these here, questions on either one of these here? Well, these here are just plugging them in, yes? These here, we're doing what? Plugging the values in, yes? So are you still good with this here? No questions on anything so far? Okay, solving equations. Any questions on either one of these here? Any questions on S or 27 or 28? You good with these here? Okay. 29 and 30. We're good with these? Yeah. 31 and 32. Awesome. If we're good with these, I'll keep moving on. We good, Brandy? Awesome. 33 and 34. 35 and 36, we're good with these here. 37 and 38. Let's look at 37. Now this one's a little bit trickier because we have, it's supposed to be 108 pi equals 6 pi j. So we're solving actually for the value of j. Now pi, the pi symbol is a number. It's just a non-repeating, non-terminating decimal that we represent by this symbol. But it is a number. Now if I want to get j by itself, well, what's with it? 6 pi, yes? So what I can do is I can divide both sides by 6 pi, because 6 pi and 6 pi will cancel out, cross out. What works out, pi and pi on the other side will cancel out too. So I am left with j by itself. Well, now I'm really left with 108 divided by 6. I want to say negative 14. Is that what you got, Lily? 18? Yep. 18. Yep, it's negative 18. And that's it for that one there. I'm just going to go on and look at number 38. Now looking at this here, because we have we're trying to get n by itself, and we have n plus 6 divided by 5. The whole thing's being divided by 5. To make this a little simpler, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by 5, because that 5 and that 5 will cancel. It'll simplify it down, which will leave us with n plus 6 equals 10. So that's the kind of real key trick to this one here. It does look harder, but once we do that multiplication of 5 on both sides, it will simplify. So now we just need to subtract 6 from both sides, and we get n is equal to 4. And if one of the numbers for some reason doesn't look right, or looks like you feel like you did something wrong, check it. And what I mean by check it, I'm going to erase this here. Is I can go on and say 4 plus 6 divided by 5. Well, 4 plus 6 is 10, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. That's what it equals. So I can plug it back in and check and see, does it work? Oh, yes, it does. Okay, that's the correct answer. This test here, I don't believe I have any checks. There's no checking on it. But if it does say in the instructions, check your answer, you need to check your answer. Because I do assign, if it's in the instructions, I do assign points to it. Okay? So a lot of the times when I say ask to check your answer, there's at least 1 point assigned to it. I've had people lose two points on it, and there was 5 problems, so that's 10 points. That's a letter grade. So especially if it says check your answer in the instructions, I'd do it because that's easy points. I just plug it in and check it. Questions on 39 or 40? We good with these multi-step equations? Yes? 41 or 42? 43 or 44? 45 or 46? Nope. Questions on evaluating these absolute values. We good with evaluating? Awesome. 55 and 56, solving these here. 55 and 56, what are the answers to both of those? Do y'all know? Well, both of these, the absolute value equals a what? A negative number, yes? Can the absolute values ever equal a negative? Well, no, right? Because the absolute value is always a number greater than 0. Greater than or equal to 0, so both of these here are no solution. Both of these are no solution. Now, most of the time, there's going to be very rarely will this happen. I will very rarely put a no solution on the test. All real solutions, there's a chance those will show up. I will put those on the test. I don't do no solutions. And it's not because I don't think they should be on a test. No, I don't mind them being on the test. My issue, especially with upper level, when you hit geometry or mainly algebra 2, this is not normally the first thing most of y'all come to. Most of the time it's not going to be, okay, it's no solution. No, it's more likely I did something wrong. I messed the problem up somewhere. What did I do wrong? So I don't put no solutions on the test because of that. Because I'd rather you work it out and get an answer, not the answer is no solutions, and you sit there for an additional 5 minutes trying to see if you made a mistake. No, I just don't include them on the test. Now, if I do include it on the test, I will give you a warning, and it'll say in the direction, if possible, or kind of give you some clue there might be one that doesn't work, okay? But for this one, there aren't any that are going to be no solution. If you think there are, raise your hand, ask. I'll come around, I'll double check it, and if it turns out it is, and I've had it a few times, I told you to cross it out, okay? Most of them will give you a solution. It will give you an answer. So we can look at one of these here. Do y'all want to look at one of these here to remember how to do these? Do y'all remember how to do these? Is that yes, you want to do one of these, or no, you understand? Okay, because again, when we look at it, we always have to do the positive and negative case. -5. And we have these here. And solving these here. So this one here is no solution. This one here I think is no solution. So these work. So we do our two cases, our positive and our negative case. And again, even though we've got absolute values on both sides, we're still doing positive and negative case. We're doing one positive, one negative, and you just pick a side to do positive and negative. So do you all want to see either one of these here? Or are we good with this? We're good with this here? Yes? Okay. Because I'll just get it set up, because we can do 4n minus 15 equals n. 15 equals negative n. And we just have these two cases and we go and solve. Now, if you're wondering, why don't we also do two cases where 4n minus 15 is negative? Because why do we just do it to one side, not both? Well, I'll do a simpler case. If we said the absolute value of x is equal to 4, So we know x equals 4, x equals negative 4. Well, and if we do the other side, we say x is equal to 4 and negative x is equal to 4, or we change the value of x. Well, we can just straight out see those two are the same, yes? So that just repeats. Here, I would have to divide both sides by a negative 1. Well, that would make x positive and the 4 negative. Do y'all see how that works there? So that's why we only have to do it on one side, because we could do it in both cases, but they overlap. They'll actually give us the same value. And I did it in this simpler form because it's still going to hold true in this one here. It would just be harder to see. But that's it. So we just do the positive and negative case of one side. And if it has a number out front, you just make that number positive or negative. So we could say 3x minus 2 equals 2 times x plus 2. And solve, distribute and solve. And then we can say 3x minus 2 equals negative 2 times x plus 2. And we distribute the negative 2. Okay? And that's it. So questions on either any of this here? Because if there's no questions, we'll keep moving on. So these here, you solve the same way. If there is a variable outside of the x, or outside the absolute value, check your answers. Check your answers, okay? Because this is the case where the negatives don't always work. Because I believe for this one here, don't get 6 feet, 65. Okay, for this one here, it works out that the solutions worked on both of them. But if for some reason a value of x made the 4x negative, it wouldn't work. Because what's coming out of here will be positive, yes? So there's some of those you might have to double check and make sure. If there are no, I'm assuming we're good with these, yes? Any questions on solving each literal equation? Because we can look at these here. So we're solving these for y. So we want to get y by itself. So the first thing I want to do is I want to move everything that's not y to the other side. So I'm going to add 7x to both sides. Because negative 7x plus 7x cancels, and I get 3y equals 14 plus 7x. But still, what's with y? We have the 3, yes? So we're going to divide both of these, every single term, by 3. So we get y is equal to, well, 14 over 3 plus 7 thirds x. And that's it. That's all we have to do for this here. We're just trying to get y by itself. So it's almost like we were doing to solve them, but instead of getting a variable equals a number, we have an equation. Questions on this here? Good? So some of these won't be as hard as this here. There's not going to be as complicated as that. I don't even know what I was doing on this one, because I didn't realize it until I looked back at it. That one actually solves. It's not the same as the rest of them. So here we're solving for the value of, I don't know if some of y'all made it to this point, but this should look familiar a little bit. Because what we're going to do is we're going to divide both, or subtract 2 pi r squared from both sides, because these two here will cancel. And our next step is going to be to divide both sides by 2 pi r, because these here will cancel. And we get this here. And we get this here. All right. And I'd make sure you at least have how to work that one down. Okay. And that's all we're going to cover with this here, because that's the last one on the